What's good, Bears fans? Welcome back to the show. I am your host, Brent C., and we here at Bears Media Company, we welcome you back for yet another episode about our Chicago Bears. Now, in this episode, we're going to check out our defensive side. Now, we have been playing very, very well the last few games. Whether or not that's on Matt Eberflus, maybe it's the addition of Montez Sweat, or maybe they're just coming into their own midway through the season, right? So we all know that our defense, start of the season, looked absolutely lost against Green Bay. Green Bay, it seems, just had every right call. More importantly, our defense made Jordan Love look like an all-pro. All-pro. Jordan Love, ladies and gentlemen. Now, you know we can't have that. As Green Bay is our biggest rival, allowing them to embarrass us at home at the start of the season wasn't a good look. Now, some would say that our offense didn't perform up to task, but I'm going to concentrate on our defense from that game until the Carolina Panthers game. So, starting off, against Green Bay, as I said, defense looked pretty bad. Looked like they weren't even been coached over the preseason and just didn't look right. We gave up third downs, which still is a theme that can be said for our defense. Not being able to get off the field, whether it's 3rd and 1, whether it's 3rd and 30, can't get them off the field to save their own lives. Not sure what's going on there, but most of the time, we look at the coaching. Now, that Tampa game, a little bit better, making the tackles. TJ Edwards pretty much started his ascension as a Chicago Bears mainstay. Tremaine Edmonds didn't really make too much of an impact. And granted, that's where we had Kyler Gordon. He was hurt in the Green Bay game, so that's where he began to miss 4 games. So, the injury bug started biting early and often for our defense. Now, in that Tampa game, we gave up, quite a few plays to an offense led by Baker Mayfield. And in that game, Baker Mayfield threw for over 300 yards and looked like a young stud just coming out of Oklahoma, right? So the defense in the pass and the run did not look very good. But they started to look fairly decent. I think that's where the coaching staff was sort of like, we're getting our rotations down, who's in for how long, what plays they can come in on, especially on our D-line. Our D-line in those first couple games, anybody could run on them. I could run on our defense those first couple games, that wasn't good. But in the beginning of the season, the defense just wasn't it. Definitely had their issues. Then, of course, there was the third game against the Kansas City Chiefs. Now, that game, I don't know who would have been crazy enough to say that we were going to win that game, but our defense just got flat out just blown out. They looked like they had no energy. They had, just issues just making plays, tackling. Tackling has been a major, I shouldn't say a major issue, but it's been an issue throughout the season so far. Wrapping up, stopping folks at the line of scrimmage seems to have been, something that hasn't been coached out even as of yet. And here we are, 9 games into the season. So take it for what it's worth, Bears fans. We just have some issues that seem to be, as I say, trending in the right direction, getting away from silly mistakes. Now, also, our rookie cornerback opposite of Jalen Johnson, Tyreek Stevenson. Now, we knew all coming into this season that he was going to get picked on. And let me tell you something. Teams have been picking on him regularly. And he has been giving them free yards versus, making solid plays. But the pass interference calls, some of them justified, some of them not so much. Now, as of late, he has been coming on fairly strong, less penalties, not too much really to say negative about him. Got his first interception, I do believe, against the Washington Commanders. So, hey, the light, kind of flickers on and off with him, but he's a rookie. So it's to be expected. Now, Jalen Johnson, as we all know, has missed about 3 games this year. Hasn't looked, like Jalen Johnson. He hasn't looked like it. He just had some, he's his solid self. But, of course, he's not an interception cornerback. He's not the turnover guy that you're looking for. But as a solid cornerback that's not going to give up a whole lot, he is very good at what he does. Now, in that Raiders game, we all know that Jalen Johnson had 2 picks, 1 for a touchdown. That's what the coaching staff said they want. Yet, I believe he's the only one that has a pick 6 so far this year. Also, I do believe his 2 picks lead the team still 9 games into the season. So, something that really, since he's came back, he's definitely played like the Jalen Johnson of old. Now, after that Kansas City game where it seemed like the entire team was deflated and down, it just seemed that maybe that was the low point for the season, right? Losing Kansas City, I believe the final score was 42-10. So that 10, we got a last second touchdown to DJ Moore in that game. So it was really 42-3 through 3 3/4 of the game. So, it's just one of those things where the defense was doing its thing. The offense was just doing its thing. They were just out there in that Kansas City game. Starting with that 4th game, the Denver Broncos coming into town. A game pitting 2 not very good teams. So what did the Bears do? And this is the shocker of all of it. Luke Getsy actually had the Bears offense humming in that first half. They were doing everything right. Justin Fields was looking like who we thought he was. Cole Kmet was making plays. The offense was doing their thing. The defense, on the other hand, they put up a decent fight, but when you needed them the most, they came away looking sad. I'll just say that. They just looked sad toward the end of that game. I mean, they did enough to keep the game close. And really, a couple of coaching gaffes in that game, not calling the timeout, not going for it, going for it when you shouldn't have, took the points. So, that Denver game, to me, just seemed like that's when the team, and that's the players, started to believe in themselves. And that defense, even though we were missing a lot of pieces, they were, let me say that, they were, because I wasn't out there, but they were actually playing for each other. Let's just say that. They were playing for each other. Then it happened. We went into a Thursday night game against the Washington Commanders. And in that game, that's where, in my opinion, the Chicago Bears got to look at what could be if things went our way, especially on offense. But in that Commanders game, our defense really stepped up. Even with Eddie Jackson out, even with Jaquan Brisker was out, I believe, in that game. But the backups came in and really showed out. Now, the Washington Commanders in that game, even though our offense showed out, we still gave up over 100 passing yards in that game. Now, this game here, the Washington Commanders ran the ball 10 times. That's a credit to our defensive line in that game and our linebackers, of course. Because as I said at the beginning of the season, our linebacker core, I have no worry about. It is one of the strengths of our defense. Now, even though Sam Howell, who is a rookie, I believe, threw the ball 51 times for 388 yards, our defense, like I said, they shut down the run game. They also, picked them off, and they sacked them 3 times. Now that's what you want from a defense. You want sacks, you want turnovers, and you want to make them offense one-dimensional. And that's exactly what our Bears defense did. So in that game, I do believe, Bears fans, we were on high. We saw our offense at its best. Defense shut down the run, but still gave up a lot of yards in passing. Even though we won the game 40-20, it was pretty much decided because their offense couldn't keep up with our offense. And a lot of that has to do with our defense. Now, the turnovers, the sacks, that was probably the most complete game for our defense so far this year. But going into that next game, the defense kind of, resorted back to themselves a little bit. Now, that Minnesota Vikings game, that's where it seemed that our offense sort of let our defense down. We couldn't move the ball. And our defense was out there quite a bit. But going against the Minnesota Vikings team without Justin Jefferson, it was an equal game in my opinion. A game in which we easily could have won just as easily as we lost the game. In that game, we lost Justin Fields after the third quarter, or I should say during the third quarter. And that was the beginning of Tyson Bagent getting his run. And the defense, believe it or not, we held Kirk Cousins to only 181 yards passing. 1 touchdown, but we sacked him twice. So there is the thing about our defense. When they step up, the offense lets them down. Even though Minnesota got 19 points in that game, the defense really handled their business for the most part. Like I say, 2 sacks on Kirk Cousins. I do believe there was a couple of fumbles recovered by our defense. So one of the things that, once again, our defense did was step up against the run game. Now, in that game, they ran the ball 22 times for 46 yards, a 2-yard average. That is solid. I don't care who you are, that is solid. We made the offense one-dimensional, took away the run game, and in the end, limited Kirk Cousins, who was throwing for a bazillion yards a game up to that point. Granted, like I said, no Justin Jefferson, but to hold him to 181 yards, that was a solid game by our defense. And of course, our linebackers were doing their thing. TJ Edwards, like I said, since that Tampa game, he has been probably our best defensive player. He is everywhere. He has been everywhere. He has done a lot of things. He's even gotten to the quarterback a couple times so far this year. So, like I say, our defense, since the Washington game, we really started clamping down on the run. Now, right after that, right after losing to the Minnesota Vikings, looking at Tyson Bagent's first start, our defense, we knew we were going to have to lean on them, because we did not know what we had in Bagent at that time. So going again against the Las Vegas Raiders, our defense had to be hyped up. And that was probably the most hyped up our defense has looked, this year. Now against the Las Vegas Raiders, our defense really, really showed up. Now, granted, they were on their backup QB, and by the end of the game, they were under third string rookie quarterback. But that's a testament to what our defense did throughout the game, limiting Brian Hoyer to 129 yards through 3 quarters. So throwing the ball, we were on point. As I said, we had not as I said, but 2 interceptions against Hoyer, and then 1 interception against Aiden O'Connell out of Purdue. Now, the defense, once again, rallied to the point of stopping the run. For that game, they had 14 rushes for 39 yards, holding Josh Jacob to 11 carries for 35 yards. The defense did their thing once again, and that's where I say the defense has finally stepped up. For that front 4, very solid, keeping the run game in check. And of course, our back 7 that we drop in coverage, doing their thing with the interception. And that was, to my great surprise, the Jalen Johnson game, where he had his pick 6 and another interception later on. Well, back-to-back, he had back-to-back interceptions, 1 return for the touchdown. So the defense really is coming along. And then we go into the LA Chargers, not the Saints. Now, the Chargers game, at the time, record-wise, stat-wise, it looked almost like an even game. But that game turned out to be just a nice little butt thrashing by the Chargers. The Bears offense couldn't really get things going. Tyson Bagent did have a decent game, but throwing 2 interceptions did not help us. The defense could not get to Justin Herbert, and he looked like, the Justin Herbert that we know he is, throwing for 298 yards, threw the ball 40 times. Definitely the pass game was on for the Chargers, but once again, their run game was not on. Rushing the ball for 25 times for 54 yards, another 2-yard average. 2-yard average. We've held 2 NFL to rushing the ball for just 2 yards a carry. That says where our strength is. And let me also say this. Our strength on offense is also a strength on our defense. We run the ball very well on offense. We run it very well, especially, we've done it all year, but I would say Dante Foreman has really, really showed up for us. And then on the defensive side, we've learned to stop the run, make a team one-dimensional. Like I say, now that Chargers game, not much we could do. We couldn't get points going on. We couldn't run the football in that game. I mean, we ran it 25 times for 73 yards, a 3-yard average. Not very good. Not going to win too many games. Even though, we got our touchdown off a run from Darrington Evans, but it was not enough. The other touchdown, coming from Tyson Bagent from running it in. So one of those things where the offense, once again, not helping our defense. And then the Saints game happened. We all saw in that Saints game, where in that first half, it was a decent game for our offense. Our defense was really doing what they, have been trending toward. Slowing down the run, stopping the run. I mean, the Saints, 27 rushes for 87 yards, slightly over 3-yard average. Hey, they were doing their thing yet again. Unfortunately, in the passing game, even though Derek Carr threw the ball 34 times, connecting for 211 yards, what really got us was the Taysom Hill. He made us just look average on defense. With Derek Carr back there, our defense seemed to be comfortable knowing that he's the quarterback. But when, Taysom Hill got in there, it's like they didn't know what to do. Even though most of the time Taysom Hill's in there, he's running the football. So the defense, should have known what's really going on. But in the end, they played a solid game, but the offense let them down. And that, with 3 interceptions by Tyson Bagent, it was pretty much a backbreaker for this team. I mean, especially since the solid first half by both sides of the football for our Bears. It just wasn't meant to be when we turned the ball over on offense to help our defense, which we did not help. So, but defense really played a solid game, even though Tyreek Stevenson gave up a touchdown where it looked like the corners kind of were not sure what the play was or who they were covering or things like that. But for the most part, for most of the game, the defense did what they needed to do. Now, that was our first game with Montez Sweat coming to the Bears. And in that game, he offered the pressure for the rest of the defensive line guys to do their thing. And it really didn't amount to a whole lot. So, like I said, his first game there, but nothing much came, from our defensive line, his teammates, I don't even think they even got any sacks on those guys. Let me see here. Yeah, we had 2 sacks. I'm on the wrong side there. No sacks. No sacks against Derek Carr in that game. So even though no pressure, I should say pressure, but no sacks in the game, that Sweat was definitely affecting the game, especially Derek Carr on one pass. He got a hold of his arm and made him throw a errant pass that hit the ground. So, hey, the Montez Sweat acquisition started showing what he could do in that New Orleans Saints game. This past Thursday night, Chicago Bears welcomed in the Carolina Panthers, and the defense, they played a very, very solid game. How solid? 9 pressures on Bryce Young, as well as 3 sacks. Now, in this game, I do believe everyone on the defensive side of the ball was healthy. That is the key. A healthy defense played outstanding against a similar poor team, but allowing only 13 points. Hey, we have to take what we can get, right? Now, the only problem is, in that game, our offense was just running the football. Even though Tyson Bagent threw the ball 33 times, he only threw for 162 yards. Meanwhile, we rushed the ball 37 times for 133 yards, just over 3.5 yards per carry. So, the run game was there, passing game was so-so. But our defense stepped up, and that, for the remainder of the season, is something that we all should be looking forward to as, we finish out the 2023 season. Because a healthy Chicago Bears defense, even with Matt Eberflus calling the plays, has come into their own. And to that, I say to our defense, salute to you and thank you for all that you've done so far. And I hope that you continue to go straight up in the rankings, as well as playing good football for your team and for your fans. Now, our offense, we're going to talk about them a little bit later. But for now, Bears fans, don't forget, hit the subscribe button, hit the like, and of course, leave a comment, because I love to hear from you guys. Best thing ever, being on this channel with you guys commenting. I love it. So keep it up. And as always, in parting, from me to you, all I can say is peace.